So as you recall, when we first got into business, we bought 2 existing businesses and then built more along the way. And we wanted to have a Christmas party because we wanted to show our appreciation to the employees. And it was amazing how much suspicion and angst there was among the employees. And so I asked what happened, and it turns out the previous owners used the Christmas party to bash the employees and to just poke criticism at all of their flaws. And so that kind of set the stage of what we were able to do and turn around these businesses. But let's talk about this current topic of Quit Talk on Azimuth Podcast. I'm Barrett McNabb, and with me is my beautiful wife, Kimberly McNabb.
There's a Warren Buffett quote, says, praise in public, criticize in private. I also think this is a good rule in general for relationships, because I see all these videos on social media about women trying to trick their husbands or bash their husbands and just trying to make them look bad. And, you know, what I don't see is videos of her when she's shocked when her husband divorces her or cheats on her.
Okay.
So we bring this up because there's this trend of quiet quitting, and it's getting pretty big. But there's a shift of unhappy workers cutting ties with their employers in vocal, public, and attention-getting ways. The trend is called Quit Talk.
Okay. All right. So a Florida woman named Paige, she's 24 years old, and she worked in the hospitality industry. And she told news agencies that she shamed her former employer on TikTok in response to repeated requests to work late at events when other favored staff were allowed to leave early. And she said that she would see the friends of the manager snicker as they left her with all of the work to deal with. Now, she went on TikTok, and she just really lambasted and quit publicly her job. And she does say that she has some regrets about that. And she said it wasn't the mature thing to do, and her parents were kind of on her back about it, but that she did land a new job.
Well, she's lucky. They must not have checked her TikTok.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've heard stories of, the infamous coffee cup story that was in the news a number of months ago, where future employers would have this test where they'd offer a candidate a cup of coffee and then see what they did with the cup after the interview was over. And what the employer said, that if the person just put the coffee cup down, wasn't a right fit for the culture of the company and wouldn't get a job. But if they washed the cup and then put it back in the rack, that was an indication of being able to fit into culture. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've also heard hiring managers will walk the candidate to their car, mm-hmm, just so they can take a look and see what the inside of the car is like. Is it filled with fast food wrappers and just a bunch of clothes and junk, or is it a tidy automobile? Right. I remember when I was filling out my security clearance for my top secret SCI level clearance, I had to give the investigator my username and passwords to all of my social media accounts, and they went and combed through all of that stuff. So you can imagine that employers are looking at people's social media accounts to see what it is, type of content that they're posting.
Well, I had an issue once. I ran into kind of a friend of a friend at Walmart once, and I was looking for jobs, and I was working somewhere, and we didn't know each other that well, but I mentioned that I had a job interview lined up, and he put on my Facebook wall, how did the job interview go? And one of the managers at the current employer, or the employer at the time, goes, what are you talking about?
Right.
I'm like, dude, that's not cool. So, yeah, if your friend can't help you find a job, just keep it hush-hush. Right. But, yeah, so.
I mean, in a small town, everybody knows each other, right?
Exactly.
So if you're in a bigger town, maybe the word doesn't get around as much, but it depends on if you're in a niche industry.
Yeah, the word gets around just as well.
Exactly.
And so you kind of want to keep it to yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, right now with the economy, there there are jobs being added, but but employers are getting to be picky, and they are getting the cream of the crop. And if they know that there is a potential employee that if things go bad, they're going to just make a big stink out the door, that might be a headache that a hiring manager might not want to deal with.
Exactly. Well, the University of Phoenix Career Institute Career Optimism Index found that 62% of employers say their company has experienced slowing or declining hiring over the past year through hiring freezes, layoffs, restructuring. So, it's more competitive. And so these employees that want to go and lambaste their employer, you may not be able to find a second job.
Yeah, I mean, we've had, since the pandemic, we've had all of these interesting hiring trends or employee trends. We had the Great Resignation, where everybody was quitting their job because companies had laid off staff, and then they needed to ramp back up. Everybody wanted employees, and so compensation offers were going out the chart. People were getting a job and then immediately quitting that job and going to another job because they offered them $10,000 more, and everybody was just job hopping with this Great Resignation. And then people had to start coming back to the office, and so there was this quiet quitting where people were just going to do the bare minimum and still expect full compensation, still expect promotions.
Well, you're not that special anymore, sweetheart. So
Right.
keep your criticism to yourself. Plus, another way to look at it is, let's say you go on a date and the person spends the entire time talking about how awful their ex is. It leaves the same taste in their mouth. Like, a future employer is going to get a bad taste in their mouth and want nothing to do with you.
Right. I mean, it's just, I just can't believe the rudeness. And I know that we've read a couple of articles where managers are talking about how the corporate workplace culture has degraded, that some of the newer employees, Gen Z in particular, just don't have the social skills to be able to interact in an office environment, whether it's not having their cubicle cleaned up or having bad hygiene or having overwhelming perfume or something, or not being able to make small talk and things like that, because unfortunately, due to the pandemic, they had years of their college life in online learning and in working jobs that were remote. And as people return to cubicles and corporations live, it seems as though they don't know how to act.
Well, I think there's the social aspect of it, because you do socialize a lot in a college setting, or more so than you may have in high school. I don't know. But also, we live in an era where everything's me, 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 me.
Sure.
And when you're trying to help a company achieve their goals, it's not about you. They don't make money focusing on you.
Right.
You are supposed to help them make money. And so you have to focus on something outside of yourself. And I think that contributes to this generation of bad employees as well.
I agree. Now, instead of publicly quitting on TikTok, do you have any advice for people who want to resign?
I would say there's, of course, the traditional 2-week notice, but you need to take that with a grain of salt. Like, if you're a lower level employee, then 2 weeks may be fine. Or even if you are a lower level employee, say you work at a grocery store, at a department store, and it's right before Christmas, try to be considerate and give a little more notice if possible, just so that they can, make accommodations to fill the role that you were in. But if you're a more specialized skill that's harder to find, or if you're upper in management, you need to give more time. I mean, I understand you want to, go to your new job as quickly as possible, but I mean, a future employer is going to get it.
Right. Well,
you need to leave more notice.
I've been surprised. I've seen now that I've been exposed to the publicly traded company corporate cultures and things like that. I'm surprised. I've actually seen a number of C-suite employees that give 2-week notice and go on to job. And I was like, that just seems weird to
Like
me.
a
You would
Fortune
think
500 company marketing head.
you would think
like,
a 3 to 6 months notice would be appropriate, but I guess they just wanted to start the job. But still, to your point, the higher up you go, I think the longer notice you should be giving.
yeah. And also,
And in a professional manner.
The employee may be thinking, well, what is it in it for me? Well, what if you want to go back one day? You don't know. You can't read the future. What if you want to go back? You go to one place and you go, you know what, this place is good. Or maybe the place I was working at is a better fit for me now in my
Sure.
life. You want to be able to go back. And if you left a bad taste in their mouth, they're going to want nothing to do with you. Also, if it's not your first job ever, any subsequent jobs are going to want more than one reference.
Right.
And so if you left in a bad circumstance, they're not going to give you a good reference at all.
Yeah, no, you never want to burn a bridge because, to your point, you don't know if you ever want to go back to the company at a later time. And you also don't want to be that person that just has this stink following them from wherever they go. I mean, HR managers probably talk to each other, especially if you're in the same industry, say pharmaceutical sales or something like that. All of the representatives, they all kind of know each other. And I would imagine the same thing if you were in the food and beverage industry or the medical industry. I mean, you kind of start to get a name for yourself. And I think making sure that you're as polished as you possibly can will probably set you up for success in the future.
Also, you might be in a position in the future where you want your former employer to be a client of yours.
Oh, that's a good point.
So
yeah, I agree
leave on
with that.
good circumstances, because instead of them paying you money as an employee, they could be possibly paying you money as a client one day.
Yep, that's a great
Just
point.
don't know.
That's a great point. So we saw this article, and with this trend of quitting on TikTok, most of the people, it seems as though they regret it after they did it because it was just a feel good in the moment to get it off your chest, but then realize that the second and third order effects were going to follow them around. So we saw this article and we wanted to bring it to you. And thank you so much for watching Azimuth Podcast. Please stay tuned after these messages.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all of the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks, and keep tuning in.
So a Boston, Massachusetts hospital doesn't want to drug test mothers and report their findings to Child Protective Services because of links to systemic racism. Let's talk about it on Azimuth Podcast. I'm Barrett McNabb, and with me is my beautiful wife, Kimberly McNabb.
The article stated, as a part of our United Against Racism effort to achieve healthy equity for patients, we are addressing policies that may unwittingly perpetuate structural racism. The announcement pertained to pregnant women using drugs, which may show up in fetal testing. Substance use disorder is a condition with significant racial and ethnic inequities, especially in the context of pregnancy, when more punitive approaches to substance use disproportionately affect Black individuals. So, at first, I was kind of fired up about this because, again, like so many instances in today's society, I feel that we are prioritizing the wrong people.
Right.
My thoughts are, what about the health of the babies? I mean, you need accurate information when you're dealing with any sort of patient. And for a baby, the most accurate and immediate medical history that you can get is from the mother.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it almost seems as though that the pendulum went the wrong way and the hospital missed the mark. If they're saying that testing people of color more often than testing white people and Asians leads to systemic racism, rather than not test everybody. I mean, that just seems like a common sense thing. Test everybody. Now, what they're saying is that as the tests are being done, some women are coming up hot on the drug tests, and so what they're saying is they're not going to notify Child Protective Services anymore because that just leads to racism. But let's walk the dog here and talk about again the baby, which is what your point
yeah,
was.
because the baby can go through withdrawal, and you need to have medical staff and drugs and whatnot to be there and ready to go. We have a friend. She knew that the baby's mother was addicted to drugs.
Sure.
And so the hospital staff was prepared to deal with her heart problems, and she's had, a number of surgeries for her heart defects. But sometimes you can't always tell right away,
Right.
like if the mother's on drugs. And so, what if something happens later? Because I'm not a medical professional, but I just feel like you need all the information up front because babies are really fragile.
Yeah, absolutely. And to put that in perspective, so if you're not going to call Child Protective Services because the baby is going through withdrawal and requires methadone in order to have the symptoms subside, I mean, give me a break. The systemic racism card needs to get thrown out of the window, and it needs to be about the health of the baby.
Yeah, and what kind of environment is that child going to go home to if the mother's addicted to drugs? Some women need that wake-up moment, like
Right.
losing her kid to get help. And, it can be a difficult process. It depends on which state you live on. But mothers can get their children back. I mean, I had a cousin lose custody of her kid, and after a year or two, she got
Okay.
custody of the child back. Now, it wasn't related to drugs. It was just she was young and stupid when she got pregnant.
All right.
But as for most news stories, we do need to take a pause. And it turned out I went on a different website and looked at this issue, and it's a tale of one story, one situation, two different spins.
Okay.
So I went to AL.com for AL for Alabama, and the spirit of this article talking about mothers being tested for drugs when they give birth, it's an article about false positives
Okay.
on a drug test. And so, maybe it could affect people of color more because on average, people of color tend to have more health issues. So
Okay.
if they're taking a heartburn medication, some can test positive as for meth.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, this is a situation in which you need to be extremely detailed on all the paperwork they give you when you check into the hospital, and preferably you check into a hospital that is associated with your OB. And, the OBs need to stand up for you if you do test positive, like, hey, no, I know this patient, she's not, maybe she ate some poppy seed bread or something.
Right. I mean, that's
positive.
a real thing because poppy seeds go same plant that heroin comes from, right?
Exactly.
And so in the Army, we get drug tested on a random basis, and there are people that have popped hot because they ate a poppy seed bagel. And so, there has been information put out in the Army to say, look, avoid these type of foods. But truthfully, whenever you are, about to get drug tested, making sure that you bring a list of all your medicines that you're taking so that they can be identified, especially if it has a narcotic in it, it is super important because the Army has very, very strict rules as it pertains to any type of narcotic or marijuana or anything like that.
Yeah. So, ladies, you have enough to deal with when you're pregnant, and God forbid if you already have a kid, but, just keep track of every little thing that goes into your body,
Sure.
including your food around the time. I mean, write it in a journal and have a little lanyard. You keep it around your neck or something like that. No, this is it. But, my recommendation, and don't get away with the drug test. I mean, the medical expenses are enough, add a couple $100 just to keep the kid from, not necessarily being taken away. You can do 2 tests on the mother,
Mm-hmm.
So retest her. Also, they can test the urine of the infant
Sure.
themselves. So, okay, if all 3 come back positive, then let's just say it's safe to assume take away the kid. But
Right.
I don't agree with automatically taking the kid away just with the first test.
Well, so this is kind of interesting because when you look at Alabama versus the Boston hospital, it seems as though Alabama is testing everybody, and so that would fix the problem of this systemic racism that the Boston area hospital has said is occurring. That they're not going to drug test everybody because of racism. Well, again, the same thing we said earlier in the video was that we needed to test everybody, and then that gets rid of the supposed racism.
Exactly.
And that's what Alabama's doing. They're testing everybody.
So with the first article, they said, well, we'll only do it with consent of the mother. Well, okay, who's more likely to be on drugs? Someone who gives consent or not consent?
Right.
It's like, okay, you give consent, you probably don't have anything to hide.
Yeah.
So that's kind of pointless.
That's kind of, police officers do that oftentimes. Can I search your bag? No. Well, why? Or do you have something to hide? And so that's kind of a trick that law enforcement does anyway. But again, we're the concern, it seems, was first placed on the mother, whereas the concern should always be the health of the child.
Exactly.
I mean, that's where the danger lies if there is a problem, because the child can't defend themselves in any other way. The mother can get help. The mother could say, "Look, let's go ahead and do a retest. I don't do drugs. Let's go ahead and do a hair sample because drug profiles are also stored in hair. So if you have long hair, you can have a very long time of looking to see what, if any, narcotics are in your system. And again, just like you said, testing the baby as well. But the biggest concern should not be racism. The biggest concern should be for the health of the child, regardless of skin color. Anyway, we saw this article and we wanted to bring it to your attention. So thank you for tuning in to Azimuth Podcast. Please stay tuned after these messages.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all of the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks, and keep tuning in.
There's that famous business saying, the customer is always right. But is that always the case? Let's talk about it on Azimuth Podcast. I'm Barrett McNabb, and with me is my beautiful wife, Kimberly McNabb. Here is a TikTok video that has absolutely gone wild, and we're going to listen to half of it, and we're going to talk some about it, and then we'll listen to the rest.
For over a half an hour, and it's past 9 o'clock at night. I cannot help you. Okay, I'm just trying to explain to you. I cannot fix this for you. I can't help you. It's just, I can't do it in that amount of time.
You realize that I am the one with the money, right? And you're not. I am the one that's hiring you.
Ma'am, that was incredibly rude. I don't know who you think. I'm trying very hard to remain professional. I can't understand where you think you're coming from with that. I have other clients that book 2 or 3 months out for me, and there are only a few in there that I'm actually designing myself. I don't even know how you got my number. But
I need
this is
a cake for 120 for tomorrow.
All right. So here to set this up, a woman is in bed at 9 o'clock at night and gets a call from a potential customer that says, "I need a cake baked tonight for tomorrow for 120 people." The requests are going to go a little further down the line, but what you're not going to hear in this video is she wanted fresh roses to be on the cake, custom design, and let's keep going.
I need to have this done. It needs to be taken care of.
it's not going to happen with me, but there are other bakers around the city that can help you. Maybe I'm not sure.
I mean, Walmart could pull this off, but they're not.
Did you? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Did you say?
I did.
Okay, you know what? The only is you, because you've sat here and basically made fun of the fact that everybody else on the planet doesn't have any money but you. I don't know who you think you are, but I'm the wrong and it's past 9 o'clock at night. I've got to do. Do you understand me? And it's not to make a cake for you. It's not to make a cake for you. Do you understand to lose this number?
I can't believe you would talk to me this way.
Oh, go yourself. That was crazy. She's crazy.
I don't even know what to say.
I don't even know if we post that.
Absolutely.
Who orders a cake at 9 o'clock at night?
Yeah, that's
a failure on her part. Your failure to plan should not constitute someone else's emergency. You're an adult. Plan ahead.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I mean, to call somebody, and again, she got the number from another client of hers that had put in an order 2 to 3 months in advance and called this woman at 9 o'clock at night saying, drop everything. I need you to bake me a cake for 120 people. This is not something that Walmart does.
No, the bakery department is not taking orders at that time of night. And plus, if you're calling a custom anybody who specializes in something and saying Walmart can do that, that's a pretty insulting, and you're probably not going to get what you want out of them.
Yeah, absolutely asinine to expect this. So, this is just one of those examples. Is, the customer right? I mean, the customer called her a bad name, and, the woman finally started to stand up for herself. Did you just call me what I think you just called me? And yes, I did. And then it was just, you have to do this. And I think customers are really starting to get in super entitled. I mean, we have the make fun of the Karen woman, let me talk to your manager and things like that. But I think, some of it is the rise of social media and the rise of review websites is giving customers this sense of superiority, that no matter what, the customer is always right. And I would say that the answer is not true in this case.
Well, also, nothing has been signed. No money has exchanged hands. So she's not yet a customer.
Right.
Like no order has been initiated. She's not really a customer. She's inquiring.
Right.
and so, I hate it when people who have no skin in the game or who have never done something before criticize other people who actually do that for a living. A woman who used to babysit me would make birthday cakes for her daughters, would make wedding cakes for other people. She made my mother's wedding cake. And so I saw the process. I mean, it takes time to mix up the ingredients. It takes an hour or so to bake the cake. You have to let the cake cool for a couple hours, or else you may have seen this on cooking shows. You put that on even a slightly warm cake, that icing is going to melt. And then she wanted custom flowers. That also involves coordinating with a florist.
Right, who's not open at 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, no, I've never seen a florist open past like 6 p.m. I mean, come on, grow up. I mean, this woman is denying she's either been outside or, I don't know. If you're a day over 30, like, you should know better. I mean, just for our kids' birthday parties, I don't order anything fancy or special. It's just going to H-E-B, a local Texas chain of grocery stores, just to order something that if I really wanted to, I could probably spend a couple hours learning to do. I ordered that a week in advance,
right.
2 dozen cupcakes, and this woman's wanting it 12 hours notice. That's ridiculous.
Absolutely ridiculous. And here's the interesting thing is, this apparently is not the first rude customer that this cake maker has had. And so that's why she has been recording some of the conversations in order to protect herself.
Not for training purposes.
Yeah, not for training purposes, but to protect herself. Now, be careful, because different states have different laws on what you can do to record. I believe California is a 2-party consent, so both people have to be aware of. We live in Texas. It's a single-party consent. So as long as one party, i.e. the woman that's recording, knows that she's recording something, the other person doesn't have to give consent. I'm assuming Colorado is the same. That's where she lives, and she's obviously recording. But the video goes viral. The video goes viral. And so the woman contacts the baker again and then wants to apologize. And apparently they've had a previous conversation, but she wants to apologize. And so the baker has recorded the apology. And let's see how it plays out.
Contact you in regards to an apology.
Well, I know you're not going to take that video down, so I apologize if I came off as entitled or rude like people stated I did.
No, I'm not going to take the first one down. If it had anything to do with like your identity or you were being harassed or anything like, which you're not being harassed, are you?
No.
Okay, so I'm not going to do that at this time because I do think that it's vital that people understand that it's not cool to treat people like this regardless of situations. So I hope...
I mean, I still think you could have taken my order because of the money, but it would have been better customer service, but that's, I guess, neither here nor there.
Now let's make sure that we're keeping up with all of the courses of events. Gets a phone call randomly from a person she does not know, potential customer, at past 9:00 at night, demanding a cake created from a custom with fresh red roses, taking place in 12 hours for 120 people, when she normally gets orders 2 to 3 months out. And you still should have taken my money.
It still should have taken my order. There's I'm from Georgia, so we are very familiar with backhanded compliments. This is a backhanded quote unquote apology.
I was trying to give you money is all I was trying to do.
It's like, I'm a firm believer in capitalism, but there need to be terms that can possibly be agreed upon, and this is not the case.
Right.
It wasn't about time, ma'am. It was that I simply could not have made that happen with what you needed in that amount of time. But you had said that you wanted to call and apologize, and you know that this is being recorded because you said that you did want this posted so that people knew that you weren't a bad person. That's from your mouth, not mine.
I just think you could have made it happen if you wanted to. But
Okay, I think that at the end of the day, you had wanted to apologize, which you have done. I appreciate that. And I think that we also previously did agree on the phone that you and I are not a good fit for each other. And you understand, and we're still on the same page about that, correct?
yes, I agree you're not a good fit for me.
I got hung up on.
Okay, so just
You're not a good fit for me.
right, and then hangs up.
Again, she's coming off as super entitled, like you're not good enough for me. That's how that came off.
Yeah, I
And then hung up
don't
on
count
her.
this. I don't count this as a true apology.
Not even close.
I mean, this is absolutely crazy. So this is an example. Obviously it's gone viral on TikTok for the first call and for the apology. But in our businesses, we are in the medical industry, and so we do have recordings of people, but I can't show them due to HIPAA regulations, right? And so, but there was. Let me just talk about was the customer right? So I had a patient that she lived on an allowance. She was in her 20s and had an allowance that was given to her by her parents, and she they would put money in every month into her checking account, and she had an ATM card. Because we're a membership-based business, and she had an ATM card, and we would charge her ATM card for her monthly membership for the services that we provided. Well, oftentimes she went overdrawn on her account, and the charge would bounce, and so she would come in, and we would say, look, your credit card didn't go through, ATM card didn't go through. You have a past due balance, and so she would pay her past due balance, and then go ahead and be current on her card. Mm-hmm. Well, she must have just had a bad day that day, because it happened again, and she went off on my staff and was just cursing like a drunken sailor. I mean, just absolutely going off, creating just a huge scene, saying that we're always doing this to her. How dare we do this? She comes around the counter. She's getting in the faces of the front desk staff. She goes into the treatment areas and is talking to the medical professionals back there, is screaming and yelling. And this is all on camera. And then she goes and leaves a very, very nasty review, negative review. And, as I alluded to earlier, I think that the power of people being able to leave negative reviews just emboldens people. And I'll be honest, as a small business owner,
It's probably because she never did anything for herself in her entire life.
it could
Daddy
be.
did everything for her, and parents, that's why you need to tell your kid no early.
right. But it seems, in my experience, that we live in this max min environment where it's either a 5-star or a 1-star review. I mean, it just seems that way. That either you were beyond perfect, or if you mess something up, man, it's 1 stars. And so anyway, I responded to her review. Normally, we have a kind of a, we're so sorry we didn't meet your expectations. We'll try and do better. How can we make it up to you? And I was like, not this time. After I looked at the cameras and the recordings, I said, not this time. And so I kind of put away that cookie cutter review response, and I did a custom review. And I said to the person, I invite you to come back into the clinic and watch your attitude and your actions during the altercation.
Invite your daddy because he needs to see it.
Right. So, but I said in my response, I said, sometimes when people see their actions from a third person point of view, they realize just how bad they were. And I said, normally we keep audio and visual for 90 days, but that I was going to keep this permanently and turn it into a training video for our staff so that they could see what right looks like as it pertains to the reactions of my staff, which were exemplary in the face of this adversity, to show them, just how much a person can take and still be professional. The woman was not professional at all. My staff need to be nominated for sainthood for their ability to
Just
remain.
like the cake baker.
Just like the cake
Because I
baker.
would not have been as nice.
Yeah, I mean,
I would not have
was.
taken that second call for sure.
It was absolutely horrid, and really, it came down to does my staff feel safe with this woman
Yeah.
because she was so irate, and so I canceled her membership and banned her from our businesses, and I said, your money that you pay every month is not worth the safety of my staff. And so she did not respond to that review. And it's still up there.
wow.
But this just, was the customer right? No.
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 It's funny that you kept the recording because sometimes when our daughter throws her little temper tantrum, she's, she can be very emotional and it can last a while.
And she's 5.
And so I'm like, if she could watch herself, because she knows what she's supposed to do. She
Right.
knows she's supposed to do what she's told. And she knows she's not supposed to cry about it for 20 minutes. And so when I tell her I'm going to record this, she gets upset. And then she's like, stop recording me. And I'm like, no, if your brother and I have to watch this and listen to you, I think you should have to watch it.
Right.
And so it has shortened it a little bit.
Now you have a
Temper tantrums.
bachelor's degree in business and a master's in accounting, and you're a CPA, a certified public accountant. Talk to me about a story that happened to you when we were living in Monterey, California, when I was going through language school.
So I went to Monterey, California to be with Barrett. We were just dating at the time, and it was 2011.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah.
so 2011. And if you've ever been to Monterey, it is one of the most beautiful places in the world, but it's not exactly corporate central.
Right.
And so I did take a job working at Macy's for $9 an hour, even though gas was $4.50 a gallon. And so anyway, it was an okay job. I worked one shift where a lady came in and she wanted to return an item, and the policy was we can either give you a gift card or if you paid for cash, we can do cash. But otherwise, a credit card or a debit card, it had to be the card that was used to purchase it with or a gift card. No exceptions, or you could exchange it for another item.
Okay.
That seems fair.
Right.
I thought it was a fair...
And it's not your policy. It was Macy's
the corporate policy,
Right.
and it was like a 30, 60-day policy, which, if you look now, Best Buy is like 15 days. It's super short. So anyway, this lady was just adamant that it go on a different credit card. And I said, ma'am, the computer will not let me. I have to call a manager. And she was extremely irate. And I said, I'm happy to call the manager, but these are the policies. I did not set them. This was how I was trained. And to boot, the computer will not let me. And so
she had her daughter with her as well,
yes,
right?
Yes. And so I felt for the poor kid because, monkey see, monkey do. She's going to go terrorize someone else later in her life. And so, the thing about calling the manager's usually not right there, especially in a big store. And so we had to wait, 10 minutes or so for the manager. And so there's this awkward silence. And she goes, well, you should be more friendly. I mean, just going on. And I'm just standing there like this. And she's like, you need to be more friendly and upbeat. I'm like, ma'am, I'm just doing my job. I have not been rude to you at all. I have not called you any names. I told you what the policy was. I didn't even say how wrong you are. And I told you I can call the manager, and I'm happy to do so. And I did. I did everything that my job requires me. I mean, if you want to talk about something else like the weather, I'm happy to do that. But I'm not sure exactly what it is you expect me to do, especially when you're insulting me and calling me, rude. So, it made me feel pretty bad because, again, here I was, I had a master's in accounting, and, oftentimes, yes, you deal with clients, but it's people who are paying you to do their tax return or, do their audit. So everyone has some level of professionalism.
Right.
You sign, some sort of contract or engagement letter to interact in that relationship, whereas a place like Macy's, anybody can walk in off the street and apparently return anything known to man. And so anyway, the manager comes up. I explained the situation to them. They stick their key in the, this is 2011, into the cash register, override this and that. And the manager did it. And then finally the lady left. And I'm like, the manager didn't back me up at all. And after the lady left, I said, so I forget the manager's name, like, I'm correct, right? I mean, the computer wouldn't even let me do it. And she goes, yeah, you were correct. I'm like, you didn't back me up at all, though. Like, say, hey, this employee did the right thing, so can you please stop yelling at her? So I just thought that was poor management and bad customer.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it was worse when you told me the story. As I recall, when the manager was able to take their key, she turned to her daughter and said, this is why you need to go get an education and go to college so you don't wind up like this person here.
Yep.
And obviously Kimberly has a master's degree in accounting and is a CPA. So I can only imagine that the nuclear bomb didn't go off.
And I could have said something. And
right.
You know what? If it were me now, no way I'd be quiet.
Right. And the thing is as you're treating people with kindness, you get more. I'll be honest. I always try and be upbeat. We'll go to a restaurant and I'm just happy to be there. And I've had waiters tell me that, look, I'm feeding off your energy. You have such a positive attitude. I'm going to feed off your energy and you're getting great service. I was same time period, I was on a 3-day pass. I believe I was visiting you in I forget where it was. Maybe we went somewhere. I forget where it was. So, but I was coming back to Monterey, California, the Defense Language Institute, and I was stuck in I forget, maybe it was South Carolina, and I got on. I checked my bag, and the flight wasn't going to get there in time for me to get to work, to school the next day. And my bag was already there. And so I said, look, is there any other way to reroute me? And it was like from South Carolina to Kansas City to San Francisco. And so I was like, done. And they said, well, look, your bag is not going to make it because it's already, in the labyrinth of the airport, and it's not going to make it. And I said, that's okay. I don't have any medicine in there. I just need to get back to the Army base on time. And so I made it all the way to San Francisco. So I go to baggage claim. Bag's not there, but there was an expectation management that the bag wasn't going to make it. So I go into the lost bag department, and there is a girl. She's in her young 20s, and she is just in the process of yelling at the representative behind the ticket counter for the lost bags, and just absolutely just lambasting her. And she, again, nomination for sainthood. She was just right there, and so the woman says it was kind of the same situation where she chose to do something, and the bag didn't keep up with her after she changed her itinerary. And again, this was all kind of due to weather. And she said, look, I want my bag delivered to me. And the representative said, no, we're not. You chose to do this. So your bag is going to be delivered here. You'll come get it. She wanted to talk to a manager. And so the manager came, and the lady just kept screaming and yelling, and the answer is no. The bag will be delivered to San Francisco. You can come and pick it up tomorrow. Lady leaves in a huff. I say, hey, look, I just want to say to the manager that your representative here was the epitome of stoicness and was very polite, even though this lady was being very nasty. And I said, so clearly your training is doing a great job, but also her attitude and her ability to take that was just absolutely mind-blowing. I just can't say enough good things about this representative. And the manager said, thank you so much. So I go into, I kind of have the same problem that this other lady had. There was weather, and I did a change to my itinerary, and I was told that my bag wouldn't make it, and it didn't. And so I just wanted to put in a claim for my bag. And she looks at me and she says, we'll be more than happy to deliver your bag to Monterey, California. And so there goes to show that it was the same scenario. One person was absolutely irate, and one person was kind and took responsibility. It's my decision, and I knew it was going to happen, but what do we do next? And without even asking, the representative says, look, we're going to go ahead and deliver your bag, an hour and a half, 2 hours, how long it takes to go from San Francisco to Monterey, and it'll be there tomorrow. And it was there tomorrow, the next day. And so it just goes to show that that you will get what you put out. It's just the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I think if we all slowed down, we'd all be able to just enjoy each other a little bit more and get through this life all together and have a lot less heartburn. Yep. So we saw this video, and we both immediately had some stories about it, and we wanted to bring it to you. So thank you for listening to Azimuth Podcast. Please stay tuned after these messages.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks, and keep tuning in.